Welcome back. Florida's housing market is hitting a rough patch these days. Inventory is piling up, prices are slipping, and buyers, well, they're not exactly ready to take the plunge. So is this just a temporary slump or the beginning of a crash? Here's my conversation with real estate expert Vincent Arcuri. You and I have been talking about this actually for months. It seems like it's happened overnight, but what is really behind these houses now starting to pile up all over Florida?
Well, it dates back to when COVID started and, the builders started overbuilding because there was so many people migrating to Florida. Well, now you look at the hurdles that are coming up. There's less people migrating to Florida. We've had the 2 hurricanes. You've had this insurance crisis going on. We definitely need insurance reform, and the cost of homeownership is skyrocketing, and that's really been the deterrent.
All the factors are at play there. Now, how is this different from what we've seen before? Because I don't have to tell you this, but for folks who may not have seen this before, it's all cyclical. It goes up, it goes down, and sometimes it plateaus.
Well, a lot of people are trying to compare this to 2005, the peak that we had, and then the downfall that we had. But the difference is when that happened, people had no equity in their home. There were a lot of 100% subprime financing, whereas people, that got corrected. So people have seen a huge increase in value over the last 3 years. So they've got equity in their home. So that's really the difference between then and now, which is going to prevent the foreclosures because they've got such a positive equity in their properties.
Okay, because you've seen the headlines and they're screaming out there, and it's hard not to get caught up sometimes in the panic. But is this anywhere near 2008, or are we nowhere near that?
I think it's nowhere near that. I think really, I think if you saw it, the interest rates tip right now, they're like at 6.5%. If you saw the interest rates go anywhere in the 5s, you would see this market shift almost overnight. Properties would start to skyrocket again. So it does have a lot to do with how much am I putting down and how much is my payment. And that's what drives the economics of people buying homes.
Because with 2008, it was also about the kind of loans they were giving out. People were in way over their heads. They had not just one home, but maybe 2 or 3 or 4 homes, and it all kind of crashed.
Right, exactly. And you don't have that type of, but now you have people that came from the pandemic that bought, they overpaid. Now, now it's time to pay the fiddler. I think those people that came in 50, 100,000 over market, they're seeing a reduction now in value, plus they overpaid when they bought, which is offsetting some of the equity in those homes.
Okay, are there certain areas or types of homes in Florida that are getting hit harder by this current surplus? Is it hyper-local in terms of the health of the real estate market, or is it regional, more like Tampa versus Miami has its own set of issues versus Orlando, Jacksonville?
It's the latter. I think when you really look at what's happening at the beach, and even when you see some of this increase in listing inventory in the Tampa Bay, St. Pete, Clearwater area, a lot of that is condo driven. And we've talked about the milestone reports and the skyrocketing cost of the HOA along with the insurances, which is just killing condo sales. Now we're adding the hurricanes to it. So I think it is more of a regional situation, and some of the statistics might be skewed because a lot of that is condominium inventory as opposed to single family residence.
How long do you think we're going to be stuck in this slump?
Well, until we have significant insurance reform. And, I know the governor's talking about eliminating property taxes, at least on homesteaded properties, if that legislation goes through. That, once again, how much am I putting down and how much is my monthly payment? By eliminating that would certainly help the market in Florida.
What do you recommend, bottom line, for people to do?
I say be patient. I think a lot of people are impatient, and everything's now. And especially if you've got one of these low interest rates from before, I would just sit there and sit tight, because these markets always go in cycle. Over the last 3.5 decades, I've seen this over and over again, and Florida's going to be fine. And, a couple of years from now, we're going to be talking about the skyrocketing market again.
We'll always have the sunshine, and we'll leave it there. Vincent Arcuri, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
As always, appreciate it. Thank you. Still to come on Full Circle Florida, trouble in Tallahassee. Governor DeSantis faces a GOP revolt as infighting erupts. Is his influence fading, and how much power does he really have left? Our panel joins us next.